Just want to make sure we're all good. Good evening and welcome to our North Springs virtual town hall. We want to thank everybody for joining us this evening. We are going to get started in about one more minute. I hope all is well with everyone. And so we'll give our visitors one more minute to join our live Facebook, YouTube. Sorry. And so I want to be mindful of the time. It is now 5:30. Just want to introduce everyone that is in the room with us this evening. I am the principal, Mr. Adams, and am so humbled to be serving as your principal during this challenging time. Just very impressed with all the communication and connectedness that we are still keeping. In the room, I have my wonderful assistant principals, Dr. Benita Esteen and Dawn Smith, as well as our technology learning coach, Miss Dana Dupree. Just very quickly, we sent this out last week and we felt that there was a need for us to, as we have with our SIC, we definitely want to keep our home to school relations intact. Our teachers have been doing an amazing and outstanding job of reaching out to parents, but we felt as administrators that it was time for us to stay connected. And so we thought that this virtual town hall would be a great way for us to stay in touch, address any concerns. And the purpose is just to think about strategies and tips with homeschooling, see if we can support remotely in any way, and then address any concerns that we have. So I'm going to really quickly run through the agenda. This evening, we're going to discuss the packets that we've sent out. We're going to talk about successful remote learning strategies. We're going to talk about safety and security with technology. And we're going to talk about communication during this time, as well as answering any questions or answers that you may have. So with that being said, we'll start with the packets. There were 3 packets sent out at this during this COVID-19 pandemic, and I want to quickly run through the timeline of these 3 packets. The first one was sent out March 16th or 17th, and that would cover the packet or work from March 16th or 17th through April the 9th, right before spring break. On April the 20th, we sent out our second packet or choice board. At this same time, for grades 2 through 5, we distributed Chromebooks prior to spring break for them to begin with their remote or distance learning online. So you may have either gotten a choice board if you were in child development through first grade, or you may have gotten a Chromebook sent out at that time. Then the third packet, that would have carried you until May the 1st. Then the third packet was starting on May the 4th and will run until May the 29th. We just received some updates today from our district that third packet or choice board or the remote learning, however your child is learning, whether online via a Chromebook or they are working on a choice board at home, that work will be until May the 29th. We have gotten a definitive day to drop off those packets, June 1st through 3rd, and be looking for information to come out on Friday about how that will look. Each day will be an alphabetical order plan to do that. So it will be by the child's last name, and we will be working on a way for those packets to have all of the links to the packets. And there'll be some more frequently asked questions coming up at the end. But I do want to turn it over to the next piece of our presentation, Dr. Esteen, who's going to touch more on the successful remote learning strategies and things that you can do, because we understand in this time, working with your child at home, there are some tips that will help you be more successful. And I'm sure there have been some things that you've already implemented. So at this time, I'm going to step out of the way and let Dr. Esteen address any concerns.
Good evening, North Springs parents. This is a little little awkward for me, so just bear with me. But I do want to say again, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedules this evening to broadcast live with us. We are so excited to be able to present this virtual town hall as we are kind of all in this together. And as Mr. Adams had already shared, we felt the need to come together and hopefully provide you with some information that will help alleviate alleviate some of the anxieties and stress. I am with you. All of us in the room, we are all parents. Mrs. Dupree, our technology coach, has a kindergarten student. Mrs. Dawn Smith, who is the other assistant principal, um, she has a new grandbaby, and she has some daughters that she's raised through the public school system. And then Mr. Adams has two little young boys that I think go on walks about 10 miles every day, to kind of burn off some energy. And then I'm a parent as well. I have a seventh grade son, and he is really kind of testing my limits with this remote learning. So I'm excited to be able to talk with you very briefly about some strategies and things that I've used. But what I actually did was I reached out to some of, I would say, the experts. I reached out to the North Springs teachers who are also parents of North Springs students or parents of children that came through North Springs to kind of see what works for them. And in communicating with these teachers, we came up with these 6 successful remote learning strategies. I feel like we should patent these because this is probably gold right here. But in communicating with them, we came up with 6 strategies. And I hope that these are some strategies that you'll be able to use. They've been very helpful for me, and they've been very helpful for our teachers. And so the first strategy we like to call CVS, not the drugstore, but CVS, and that's the choice and voice strategy. For this particular strategy, you want to allow your child say and how their day should be structured. And so, Mrs. Widener, one of our second grade teachers, commented on how she uses this strategy for her daughter that's in first grade. She says that her daughter has a checklist of all of the activities and learning areas and things of that nature that she needs to complete for the day. It can change from day to day just depending on what the activity is, but she kind of outlines all that in a checklist. But the CVS comes into play when she allows her daughter to decide what to do first and when her daughter wants to take her lunch and snack breaks. And she says that her daughter knows that she has to have this checklist completed before she can go out and play and do the things that she wants to do. Now, I use this particular strategy as well with my son Jacob. He's in seventh grade, and I allow him each day to decide what subject he wants to begin with. And what I found that by giving him this choice and voice, he feels as if his opinion matters. And so it's less of me telling him what to do. You either going to do this science or else versus, okay, Jacob, good morning. Do you want to do the science first or do you want to do the math first? Which subject would you like to do first, son? We tried like that. But that strategy has been pretty successful for him because, as parents, we know that if children kind of have a say and feel like they're in control of it, they're more likely to do it. And we can kind of be a little manipulative there and get them to, hey, what do you want to do? And they'll get it done. The second strategy that the teachers came up with is allowing your child to take frequent breaks. Let your student take breaks as often as they need to. And it may be a pain because you may feel like you're always breaking. Again, my husband is always on my son about, hey, Jacob, how many breaks are you going to take? But it is okay as long as he's getting the work done. Miss Long, who is a fourth grade teacher, and she has a kindergartner and a high school student. um, she actually uses this particular strategy, and she mentions that her kindergartner has a short attention span, and so she'll sit with a kindergartner who'll usually complete one assignment and then gives her child a break to play for 5 to 10 minutes, and they'll do that until she completes at least one assignment in each subject area. And so it may make for a long day, but the child does not feel as overwhelmed. And one strategy within the strategy is kind of the 10 by 10. And I'll use this sometimes with my son. He'll work for 10 minutes and then take a 10-minute break. And then so but let me encourage this. While your child is breaking, use that as an opportunity as well, parents, to take a break, decompress, get a cup of coffee, maybe go out for a walk, get some sunshine. And then when the break time is over, you guys come back and you won't feel as overwhelmed and you'll get to approach the work from a fresh set of eyes. A third strategy that the teachers came up with is establishing a routine. And I do believe that it's absolutely crucial that there is some routine for your child to fall back on, but with that, allowing your child to have CVS. Choice and voice and say with how they want to structure that routine. So, for example, Mrs. Williams, she's a second grade teacher and she has a fourth grade student and a second grade student at NSE. She keeps a calendar board in the kitchen and it reminds them of their routines and allows them to check off and feel ownership and an accomplishment as the tasks are being completed each day. And then Miss Long mentions that, who's a fourth grade teacher, mentions that she keeps a home schedule that is very similar to the school schedule. And so her children wake up pretty much the same time. They wake up for school. They eat breakfast. They get dressed. So yeah, I mean, sometimes on Sunday mornings when we're having that live streaming, I have to remind myself to go ahead and put on my Sunday dress so I can be in the mindset. And so it's probably, going to be the same thing for our kids. Go ahead and let them get dressed, and it helps them get in that mindset to be ready to get their work done for the day. And then she also mentions that her kids continue to have a bedtime to ensure that they still get enough rest and they're ready to work. And just in remembering that children still need to feel that order. If you think about the fact that we are in such an unprecedented time and it can be a little chaotic, and so to still provide our children with some structure and order. Now they won't admit to it. I mean, my son will never admit to the fact that he loves the fact that I make him do certain things at certain times of the day, but it gives them a sense of safety and security with that structure and order. So I would encourage you to establish a routine with your student. The fourth strategy, and we're almost there, guys. The fourth strategy is workspace that works. And so creating a place for your child that works for them. And it can look different for each student, each home. And I have, Mrs. Kaufman, who has a seventh grader, fifth grader, and second grader. The workspace is the kitchen, but each child has a designated spot in the kitchen. But then I have Miss Beck, who has a ninth grader and a sixth grader, and she has to keep them in separate areas of the house to minimize distractions. And then I have Mrs. Widener, who's a second grade teacher. She too uses the kitchen as a designated workspace for her daughter. And within these designated spaces, all of the teachers reported that the materials are already there, ready to go for the children. Now, for my son, he actually has two spots, and it really is dependent upon his attitude and his body language when he wakes up in the morning. So when he wakes up and he's ready to go, I let him choose to work within his bedroom. And him and his ADHD, it gives him some natural movement where he's able to move from the gaming chair to the desk, things of that nature. But if he's taking way too long to get through this, then his workspace changes to my office, and he has to sit by me while I work and he works. Now that may sound like punishment. But with that, it allows me to model for him, what it looks like to persevere through a particular task. And then it also allows me to encourage him, to stay on task. But having a dedicated workspace will help minimize those distractions while helping your child to get in the frame of mind to complete the work. A quiet place without distractions, such as the television, video games, that's going to be key, because if they're in a spot and those things are there, they're going to be inclined to kind of drift off and kind of be sneaky and get to it instead of staying on task. All right, strategy number 5. Incentivize to stay in stride. And so, for this particular strategy, you want to set up goals for completing the work and then offer your student incentives for getting it done. So Mrs. Beck reports that she uses this particular strategy for her sixth grader, ninth grader, and they actually earn time to play video games or watch a movie after they have completed a set amount of assignments or time working on assignments. And then I would also add, as a part of this particular strategy, you want to make sure that you offer praise to your child on those days where they get the job done. um, and it may be, it may have taken all day to get it done, but for those times that they actually get it done where you're not having to stay on them as much, praise them. Praise, 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 praise. When my son, has a good work day, so to speak, I always make sure I praise him. And then, I'll reinforce him by, making his favorite milkshake, or, we'll, do some dessert that he likes. He's on this pound cake strawberry whipped cream kick right now. So whenever he has a good day, I always reinforce him. Jacob, you did a really good job today. I didn't have to talk, to you as much about it. Do you want to, vanilla milkshake, or, do you want mom to make, these cookies for you or whatever? But just praise them. Giving your child an incentive for completing the work positively reinforces them for getting the job done. It gives them something to look forward to and can be a great motivator, especially when they're faced with a particularly difficult assignment. And then the last strategy, and this is probably my favorite strategy, it's called drop and stop. Now, sometimes there are going to be days where, the kids just aren't feeling it. I mean, as adults, we need mental health days. There are days when we're just like, I can't do this today. I need a break. So kids get like that as well. There will be days when they're just not feeling it. They don't want to do the remote learning. So on days like this, step away from the work and do something fun. Mrs. Kaufman, shares that she uses this particular strategy. And, she says that her children had a really difficult time, getting used to this new routine. She said some mornings they would get started at 10 a.m., some mornings they wouldn't get started to 2 p.m. And that's okay. And it really is. I mean, you really have to think about your child and where they are at that moment. I think the stress and the frustration comes into play when we try and make our children fit a particular mold versus saying, you know what, I love you, son. I love you just the way you are, all your crankiness. And so let's make this work around you to minimize my stress and your stress. But she realized that there were times her kids needed a break. And so one thing that she did in particular was it was just pushback, pushback, pushback. She could not get them motivated, tears, crying, all of this. And she just decided, you know what? The sun is shining. It's a beautiful day. Drop and stop. Let's go outside. Let's enjoy the sunshine. Let's just spend time together. And it was okay. And so when they came back to the work later on that day, they all had a fresh set of eyes. So it was really an extended break. But Mrs. Widener shares that sometimes she'll use this strategy with her first grader, and she may get to a stopping point, and if her daughter's just not feeling it, then she just stops it. Let's drop and stop. Let's do something fun, and we'll come back to this tomorrow. And that is absolutely okay. Just as adults, sometimes we don't feel it. I think, telling ourselves, well, just like we deserve a mental health day, our kids deserve it too, because this can be a stressful time for them. So just keep that in the backs of your minds, or really the fronts of your mind. It is okay that they experience days like this as well. And it's okay to take a break from the work for that day. It is okay. It is okay to say, we're not doing this work today. Now, hopefully, I won't get in trouble for saying that. Now, not forever, okay? Not forever, but just today. We're going to take a break today, and we're going to come back tomorrow with a fresh set of eyes. But by doing this, you and your child will be less stressed. You will feel rejuvenated, and you'll be ready to attack the work at a later time. And, one last thing I want to leave you with as parents, and we may not feel this way at this point, but really embrace this time as an opportunity to really connect and bond with your child. I mean, this is time that we won't get back. Children grow up so fast. I think about, I have a 30-year-old, I have a 21-year-old, and I have a 13-year-old, and I really miss them being little ones. So I'm getting to spend some time with my 13-year-old that, I mean, is really priceless. And even though there are times where he drives me absolutely bonkers, I am embracing this time that he and I are getting to share together, during this time of kind of, social isolation and social distancing. So kind of, look at it from that vantage point that, I'm getting to spend time with my child and really see them grow and learn and develop in front of my very own eyes. So, that's all I have. You can take them all, take one that may or may not work. But with that being said, please feel free to email me directly. I am where you are. Okay, I'm where you are. So you are welcome to email me directly, call me. We can talk about it. We can be a support to each other. And, that's all I have. So good luck. Oh, and I'm sorry, Mr. Adams is coming back.
Thank you so much, Dr. Epstein. And, a couple of questions popped up, and thank you for them. And we'll try to address them as they go through. People were asking, when do we turn in the packets and how it might look? June 1st through the 3rd are the days that we're going to submit the packets. We envision you coming through the car rider line. There'll be bins for grade levels for you to put the packets in so that, as little human to human contact as possible. We are even exploring the option of you being able to scan the packets and email them into us if you have access. And then somebody else asked, what if the packet is not completed? What if they are not completed? And that's the challenge there. If they're not completed, we're taking into account, and our superintendent, Dr. Davis, talks about this all the time, the idea of grit and grace. And we will definitely, we understand the grit and determination that is needed to push through during this challenging time, but we also understand the grace, and we will definitely extend that grace to our kids. We're looking more for participation and effort and engagement than we are looking for mastery and perfection. So we will definitely take those into account whenever the packets are submitted. We ask that you reach out to your teachers as well if you're having any challenging times with the packet so that we can assist. At this point in time, I'm going to ask Ms. Dupree to come join us. She's our TLC, and she's going to talk about another important piece, safety and supervision with technology, because that really is important and we adhere to it in school, and we definitely want to make sure we do so outside of school. So, Ms. Dupree.
Hi, everyone. I did just want to touch base with everyone just to let you know that our ultimate goal of sending home that technology was to provide meaningful learning experiences for our students, try and get those academics out to them so that way they can be learning from their teachers. However, with everything in technology, we know that safety is our number one concern. And when you got your Chromebooks, you also picked up this reminders sheet, and your teachers can also send that out to you as well if you misplaced it or you want to look back at it. But I wanted to take a moment to let you know that it is a Richland 2 device, and it does still filter through our Richland 2 servers. And even though they have it at home and they are using it at home, they still have to adhere to those responsible use policies that we go over each year. So just a couple of them that I wanted to just touch back on are that the students are logged into their Richland 2 accounts while they are on these devices. So it is for academic purposes only. We want to make sure that they are using those devices to complete their work and to get their things done for their teacher, communicate with their teacher, have those Google Meets with their teacher, and get all of their questions answered as they are working. So we do want you to just be mindful that it does belong to Richland 2, and we want the students to be using it for Richland 2 purposes. For safety of the actual device, we want to keep food and drink away from them, no heavy objects placed on top of them so those screens don't crack. We don't want to poke or touch the screens. And then if you do decide to clean it, please make sure you are using approved electronic cleaners only, nothing with alcohol or ammonia in them. And then also included on here was my email address if you're having any technical difficulties, and then some reminders about when you are having those Google Meets with your teachers. So parents, you can help your students set up a successful work area. I know I've been having to do that with my kindergartner. Just want to make sure that she's in the right zone for when she meets with her teacher. Just looking at her surroundings, making sure there's nothing going on in the background, making sure the TV is off so that way she can be focused or the music is off. And just making sure she's also communicating kindly and appropriately in the chat window if her teacher asked her a question, or if her microphone is off, that she's also communicating with her classmates respectfully as well. That is all that I have for right now, but we are going to move on in the agenda next. And here comes Mr. Adams.
And Mr. Pre is an outstanding TLC who's done some great professional development with our teachers. She hosts Live PD, which is every day at 1, where she gives them tips on how to manage Google Hangouts, push out Google Classroom resources. I really feel like our teachers who are doing the remote and digital learning are doing an outstanding job. I've been invited to a couple of Hangouts. In fact, one where the student said I look a little bit more manly with my beard. So that's always good. I'm cutting this thing off as soon as I can. But, it is nice to see. And we honestly, as a school, have taken more of an approach to connectedness. So in a lot of the Google Hangouts, you may hear students sharing connections, what they're doing outside of at home to connect with one another before they jump into the learning. We really value that piece in school, and we're missing that piece that we do not have right now. So we will spend a little bit more time establishing our community. With that said, the next piece, it's very important to have student communication, but it is also, this is the most crucial piece, I think, in this time, and it's that home to school communication. And so I'm going to invite Ms. Dawn Smith to come talk about all of the measures that we have put in place, because I think the thing as a school that worries us is we understand that we're a safe haven for children. And if we have not heard from parents in any form or fashion, we need to hear from you. So we will talk to you about all of the plans that we've put in place, a lot of different steps of being able to communicate with you and what we've done in this timeline. So Ms. Smith is going to come join right now.
Good evening. It's good to be able to talk to you directly. We've tried to stay in daily contact, but not all of us have been able to do that yet. And we've been trying to get in as we can on different Google Meets with classrooms, and that's been fun. But it's really good just to be able to reach out to parents right now and let you know some things that we've been kind of thinking through ourselves and hearing from a lot of families about, so that we can answer some questions for you. I just want to start out by saying thank you for all y'all have done, just to keep your family safe, healthy, and going. Obviously, we know that this is a really stressful time for families. My kids are grown. I know that I never went through anything like this when they were here at North Springs, but I can only imagine. I have many close friends. My own teammates here at North Springs are dealing with e-learning and learning from home, and then trying to struggle with work and family demands and just so many things. And I'm humbled by the many stories I've heard, just so many different stories and challenges that people have faced, whether it be in their own home or just what we're all dealing with right now in our country. And I think that it's really brought us all back to a point where we're thinking about what's important in life. And, as much as our families are so important, we know that education is important, and that's our job here. So without putting stress on parents, we've tried to make sure that we're balancing that with being accessible and really letting you know that we're here, but also understanding and showing that grace that Mr. Adams talked about, and that Dr. Davis always reaffirms, the grit and grace. So it's just that balance, that constant balance. So thank you for all that you've done. Our main job here is to remove barriers. We know that teachers are on the front lines, and right now you're the teacher in the home. So our teachers are generally on the front lines here at school, but right now it's you at home. And so we want to make sure that we're removing any barriers that you're facing. And we have heard directly from some parents. Some parents have been more apt to reach out to their child's homeroom teacher, which is perfectly fine. And then when the homeroom teacher can't help, they reach out to us. Whatever works for you, whatever is more accessible for you and easy for you, that is fine. But we are here to kind of solve those problems, help you in any way that we can, whether it be getting a packet. We've been delivering Chromebooks, staying an appropriate 6 feet apart and leaving Chromebooks on the porch while we kind of step back and just say, hey, you got it from here, or whether it be sending extra packets in the mail, whatever we can do to support you. But also, when it comes down to the learning piece, we want to make sure that you understand that we are here for you. Our teachers are ready to help. We have staff members who don't have a direct responsibility right now, possibly, who are saying, what can we do to help? We want to help. So as you are going through the rest of this school year, which, is just coming to an end now, but we want to make sure that we're also here for you, and that let you know that learning is so important every day throughout the year. So if you're struggling, we want to know about that. Early on in this pandemic, we put some procedures in place with our teachers, and we were, when we left school March 12th, we said, bye, have a great weekend, get out and play, read a good book, and we'll see you Monday. And that didn't happen. And so we are craving the personal contact, whether it be through text or Google Meets or even this format right here. But early on, we put some things in place to make sure that our teachers were able to contact students. And as they were trying to reach out to families, we set up a Google Doc where they could submit names of families that they were having trouble getting in touch with. We knew that a lot of people may be moving around. Kids may be with grandparents, or maybe, families left to go take care of another family member. So we did have some families that it was a little bit difficult for. So we put that in place, and it was a log just for us to be able to see who are we not hearing from. And then we reached out to families. Mr. Adams, Dr. Esteen, and myself started calling and texting and trying to reach out, and we were able to reach every family that we needed to. So at this point, we know that we've at least touched base, but we also know that there are some families that we're not hearing from. And I want you to know that we're really, really, really proud of our teachers. And by the way, We'll put a plug in for Teacher Appreciation Week. We know you guys are teaching at home right now, parents, and we know you understand the demands of this job and how difficult it is. And it's in social media, and there's all kinds of funny things going on out there, funny memes and little videos, but it is a tough job. And so this week, as it is Teacher Appreciation Week, reach out to your child's teacher. Send a little video from your child just saying how much they mean to you. Our teachers overnight had to transform the way they teach, and I could not be prouder of them. I don't know what I would have done myself, and how they did it overnight. So reach out and let them know how much you appreciate that. They're also dealing with their own children. You've heard some of our teachers who have their own children at home who are learning. We have teachers who have little ones, babies and toddlers. They have their own demands. So we just really, really want to show support and let them know how much we appreciate them this week. And it's difficult this week since we're not in the building to do the kind of things that we typically would do for them. So let them know, do something special for them, drop them a card or something in the mail, or just send them a quick little video. All right, that's my plug for Teacher Appreciation Week. But I do want you to know that we've been able to contact all of our families, and we're continuing to do that. But as our teachers are reaching out to families and touching base throughout the week, some teachers, of course, 2nd through 5th grade are doing Google Meets and things like that. But kindergarten and 1st grade in particular are not feeling the direct contact. So especially kindergarten and 1st grade parents, if you would just, when you hear from your child's teacher, if you could just respond with a thumbs up or a thank you or a got it, something to let them know that you received that information and that communication. They feel as if they are putting things out there and not always hurrying. And we know you're busy. Trust me, we know you're busy, but we just want to make sure that we keep that line of communication open. All right. Remember that every day our NSE chirp goes out at 9 o'clock. It should be coming to your email. You should be getting that, and your children should be getting that as well to their email accounts. If you're not getting that, if you're not getting any communication from your child's teacher, we must have incorrect information in PowerSchool. Okay. So let me say that again. If you don't get the NSE chirp every day, we don't have the correct information in PowerSchool because it goes to that database, and that's what information. Just email your child's teacher, give them the correct information, and she or he can pass it on to our data coordinator, and we'll get that updated in PowerSchool. But if you have not heard from your child's teacher via Google Meet, email, a phone call, or a text in the last week or so, let us know. You can reach out to us. Our email addresses are on the school website. Reach out to your grade level administrator or to Mr. Adams. All of us are here to help. But that there may be a problem, and so we want to make sure that you have the access that all children have to make it, to give your children the best education that they can for the remainder of the year. They will, our teachers and we will be available through June 6th. Okay, so they should be contacting you. We'll be continuing Google Meets. We do have some fun days set aside. If we were in school right now, we would be looking forward to field day. We would be looking forward to the close of school and lots of celebrations, which we are working on and we plan to have. But and those days will be a little less stressful for your children and a little more enjoyable, hopefully. But I have heard some great things going on through e-learning. Some great, what I love is getting in with some of the Google Meets and the Hangouts and seeing a child's life. Because back in the day, we used to do a lot of home visits. And so we were able to go into a home and just really get to know a family. And it's almost like this has given us the ability to do that reciprocally, because I know that when I've done our NSE Chirp video for the morning show, I've been able to share my new grandson. I've been able to share my pets. Maybe you got a little look of my home, that I love being outside, and things like that have helped us to get to know each other a little bit deeper. And so I hope you've been able to do that with your teachers, and I hope they've been able to feel that with you. And I think that the bond that we all share during this time is probably going to be one that remains forever. And I'm going to share just a quick little, I don't know, maybe just a little story from my heart. Yesterday, we finalized the adoption of my grandson. My daughter has been a foster mom for 2 years to a newborn infant that she got from the hospital. And so yesterday, he was 797 days, I believe, in foster. I'm sorry, 77?
787.
I should know that number. Thank you, Mr. Adams. 787 days he had been in foster care, and his adoption was finalized. And to celebrate, we didn't get to have the big party that we planned, but we did do a little drive-by like many people are doing, a little parade. And I had the privilege of one of my students from 2001 come by just to say congratulations. That is the kind of bond that we want to create with our families, the connections that we want to have. I haven't talked to her in years. She's on Facebook, and I knew that she was getting married, but we haven't directly communicated in years and years. I see them in the community occasionally, but she came by with her mom and said congratulations, and just we shed a few tears, and we've all got goosebumps in the room right now. But that's the kind of stories that we want to go on from this COVID-19 pandemic that has really sent our country reeling. We want to make sure that we are here for you, that you know that your teachers are here for you, that you are sharing your struggles with us so that we can help. I'm available a little bit more than some people and would be happy to help in any way. You could call me if your child is struggling, and I'll try to help them through math or science or social studies, whatever it is. But we are all here for you. With that, we are going to move on to the next segment of our YouTube Live, and we're going to go to our frequently asked questions. So we're going to each take a segment. Mr. Adams is going to take the first segment, so I'm going to turn it over to him.
Thank you so much, Ms. Smith. And, that power of connectedness. Our theme here at North Springs is Many crickets, many connections, one community, and it is truly a testament with Ms. Smith and what she shared and what we're getting to build with our community now. I'm going to log in and just want to let you know our fabulous PTO and SIC. They actually met on Monday virtually and helped us brainstorm some possible questions that they've heard in the community that we definitely need to address. Now, we won't have the answer to all of these questions because some of these questions are mandated or dictated by our state and our district level leaders. I do want to take a moment to recognize Dr. Shealy and Dr. Davis and Dr. Franklin and Keith Price, Mr. Price, and all of their leadership and guidance that they've done, and in particular, recognize our teaching and learning department with how they've pivoted and with each new piece of information and helping support our school. So we definitely have to thank them. So I'm going to run through these questions, and at the end, you type in your questions as well. Okay. So first thing is summer camp. Summer camp is not taking place. We are not having players this summer. Obviously, that's one of the things that has been mandated by the state as far as the school closures are concerned. They're not letting students in the building in the month of June, and they take it on a month-by-month basis. And if you ever wanted to get any updates, you just visit ed.sc.gov. And that gives you the updates for the State Department and that. The next piece is we've got a couple of questions we're going to run through. How will packets be turned in and graded, and what happens if the packet is not complete? I think I addressed that earlier in the live. We will practice grit and grace, but definitely take into account your child's effort on these packets when making that consideration. Somebody asked, can the packets be scanned and emailed in? Yes, they can. And if they can be scanned and emailed to the teacher, we will make sure that they get to the right place. When can students get their belongings? That is also June 1st to the 3rd. But I do want to stress this as far as the belongings, just to give you an example. Really use discretion about that. And what I mean by that is personal set of prescription glasses, medication. That makes total sense for you to come out of your house to drive by our school and pick that up. If it's, to be honest, something that they could pick up whenever we start the school year next year or the next time we're in the building, just use discretion as a teacher, as a parent about what to prioritize to come and get, because I'll be honest, my job is safety and concern for all stakeholders, not just parents and students, but also faculty and staff members. So the less amount of exposure that we can have with the public, the more I can guarantee their safety. And so just please practice that and, reach out to your teacher if you have any specific questions or an administrator. Will we host player summer camp? At this point in time, we are not hosting summer camp. There is not even going to be an on-site summer reading camp that is offered to those children. It will be something virtual. Our district has moved to all of our professional learning for our teachers being virtual this summer too. So the goal is to practice as much social distancing as possible. What is the last day for e-learning and what happens if the child is not completing the e-learning assignments? The last day is May the 29th. And what happens is we will give you some formative feedback about where your child is with those assignments. In fact, there are discussions about possibly giving you some feedback prior to that, which we definitely need to make sure that we do. And then we will definitely send you something at the end. The plan is now for report cards to be mailed out after June the 5th. Our teachers will need a little time to finish up the grading and get them together. But any new learning or any log-ons or hangouts will stop after May 29th. What you decide to do after that, we do have Google Classrooms with extra resources if you wanted to continue stuff. And our plan is to try to make sure you have access to any online resources as well. How will schools handle a student who might test positive after the school opens back up? Just like we would in the normal community, you all have worked in jobs. And so with that, in a job, obviously we would move with the self-quarantine, make sure that others are checking themselves. And we will probably, our head nurse, Dawn McAdams, will give us some guidelines or a protocol or steps to adhere to if we do run into that. I understand somebody asked a question about IEPs. We have our TLC in which Dr. Esteen and Ms. Smith are addressing those type of questions. Great question, Ms. Parker Powell. When will Chromebooks be collected? And this is a piece that I'm so proud of for our district because we understand that we have to close up some of the inequities in learning. Just today, I was informed by our wonderful teaching and learning department and our technology team is that we want the students to hold on to the Chromebooks over the summer. We definitely want you to, and we can get those Chromebooks when you come back to school. A fifth grader headed to middle school would turn in that Chromebook to their middle school. And if you are a parent who's withdrawing from the district, we have a depository where you can drop that Chromebook off. If you're withdrawing from the district, you can take it to Longleaf Middle. But we do feel that that kids and our district, our district feels that they need to hold on to their Chromebooks because we just understand that this is a unique situation in which the rules are out the window. We've got to operate in the best interest of kids. And we feel if we can give kids access to learning, it needs to take place. What will be done to make up for the time lost for students to ensure that they do not fall behind? This was a question that was asked last night, and I've got to be frank as an instructional leader of this school. We are anticipating, and there's no way that a kid won't fall behind for two reasons. One, they're not receiving the direct instruction from our teachers daily. Two, they're missing out on the social piece of learning, which is so big. Learning is social. It is crucial that they are around their peers whenever they're doing that. But our fabulous teaching and learning department is already in discussions with the State Department about how that learning might look. So what that might mean is us looking at ways to incorporate some of the standards that were missed this year into next year. It will look like some creativity on our part with how we do the strategic grouping of our students and things of that measure and things of that nature. I just saw a question pop up by Ms. Goodman. What will free online resources will there be in the summer? We're actually working on a document to get you that information. We're going to try to send that home with the school report card. What we're going to also try to ask teachers to do is to not reset any of their free online resources that you have access to now. So Ms. Goodman, your child will be able to still log into their Google Classroom over the summer and have access to some of those resources that are purchased by the district. I'm going to keep running through these, and then I see some other questions that are great too as well. So what are the plans for reinforcing or enforcing hand washing and cleanliness throughout the day once school reopens? Again, our head nurse, Dawn McAdams, is in touch with the State Department, and we will adhere to all of those guidelines. A lot of those things we do have in place, but I think with COVID-19 and the pandemic, the biggest form of adherence to those guidelines, one is the parents talking at home with their children about the importance of doing so. The more you can push it at home, the more we can reinforce it at school. We're going to try to be strategic and think about factoring in times for students to wash their hands prior to coming in from recess. I think teachers will be scheduling that. Ms. Smith, you just logged in. We are not having summer players this summer because of the guidelines with the social distancing. How will assessments be done in the new school year? That is something that our State Department will guide as well. They are actually working as a task force now to look at how that might take place. How does NSE plan on controlling parents sending kids to school with a cold or fever? Well, we already have a plan in place, as you would with any place. You have to be fever-free for 24 hours. We look for those symptoms as teachers, and any teacher is very proactive about sending a child to the nurse if they have any issues with that. Will the rules be a bit stricter? I can imagine that we'll probably have some more guidelines set in place, but we will again look for that direction from the state level. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Esteen to talk about supports and needs section. There are a couple of questions in there that she's going to address. Before I step off, I believe somebody asked, will there be a virtual camp? We haven't toyed around with that idea of a virtual camp for players. That players is usually not an educational camp. We do know the summer reading camp, which is offered by our district, and people have to qualify, or students have to qualify for that. We will be doing that virtually. There are some other camps that I know of that are moving to a virtual platform, and as soon as we get that information, we'll push it out. My example will be STEMs for Kids. They usually meet here on Mondays at our school, and that is something that you pay for. He already has a virtual platform that he is ready to push out for the summer, and I can get that information out to anybody, and we'll probably put it out to everybody in virtual format, probably the NSE Chirp or something like that. I can imagine, Miss Ivory, a lot of other people going to a virtual format with their camps, and whatever they present to the school, we'll try to make sure we get to you as well. So I'm going to let Dr. Essine come in and address her questions.
Hello, hello. Good afternoon or good evening again. And so, and I think Mr. Adams had already mentioned that a lot of the questions we got from teachers whose parents had asked, and then we actually got a lot of these questions from our PTO. So there were a set of questions that were really geared towards the support and needs of students. And so, and I gotta move this a little bit closer. My eyesight is not as good as Mr. Adams's, but the support and needs. So, one question was, what can parents do to keep their kids motivated? And, I would go back to, following the 6 strategies to successful remote learning, especially the piece with incentivizing your student, setting goals each day, and then really incentivizing them when they meet that goal. That'll help keep them motivated, especially if it's something that they want to do. And then there was another question that asked, can teachers put together a list for parents and a kid-friendly list as well that may help? And as Mr. Adams had previously mentioned, a lot of the resources and things we're actually compiling into one type of hub, so to speak, one type of hub where parents will be able to access as well as kids. And a part of that will include the 6 strategies for successful remote learning. There was another question asked: Are there teachers who are available for tutoring? And so, if your student was receiving RTI services, then you can definitely connect with our RTI coordinator, Mrs. Regina Williams, who's available to help those students that were receiving RTI. And then for those students that are receiving specialized instruction through an IEP, reaching out to your child's resource teacher or case manager for additional support as well. And then we are, as a school, looking at quite possibly having a tutoring platform. But in the meantime, I would encourage you to reach out to your child's teacher and just simply letting them know, hey, we're not understanding this concept. Can we set up a time where we can go through this with my child to make sure they understand this particular concept? That is okay. I do it all the time with my son. Let's see. Another question is, what social emotional support is available for students and parents, such as counseling, therapy sessions, etc.? And then, can we offer any stress management tools and tips? So for the second part of that question, again, I go back to the 6 strategies of successful remote learning. I think that if you're able to implement some of these, if not all of these, I think you'll find that there's less stress, especially things like the stop and drop, taking a day to just walk away from the work, or taking those frequent breaks where, you as a parent kind of decompress while they're breaking, you do something fun. I think that will minimize a lot of the stress and anxiety that you may be experiencing as a parent, or your child may be experiencing as well. And then the first part of the question asks about the social emotional support available to students and parents. We do, and we actually received this from our school counselor. Fort Jackson's Military and Family Life Counseling Division, they're actually offering some counseling services. And so on Wednesdays, they have something called Wellness Wednesdays, and it's actually geared towards elementary students, K-5. And it outlines the different things that they have on that Wednesday. So like on May 6th, oh, that was today. Sorry. On May 13th, which will be next Wednesday at 1 p.m., they're doing a webinar, Stress in My Hands. And then May 20th, they're doing a webinar at 1 o'clock, Stress in My Brain. And so you can actually reach out to Fort Jackson for the Wellness Wednesdays, and we'll be sure to post this where you can access this information. And then Fort Jackson is also offering video and telephone counseling, which is now available, and you would continue your progress at home so you can keep moving forward. It talks about who is eligible. It is a free and confidential, non-medical counseling that's available. And then within that, it breaks it down like there are particular counselors assigned for certain schools. So, for example, they don't have this probably on the other page that I didn't print, but that's information for you guys as well. And the website is listed. And so we'll be sure that to make sure that you have access to this also. And that'll address that social emotional piece. We still have our school counselor who's conducting small groups virtually, but please feel free to reach out to her directly. That's Miss Matthews. And we also have our school social worker who's also providing some social emotional support for students and parents as well. So we have a nice little kind of community of social emotional support available. Just give us a call and we can point you in the right direction. The next question is, what measures does NSE have in place for students that need additional support at home to be successful? And really, pretty much the same thing, reaching out to our school's counselor, Miss Matthews, our school social worker, Mrs. Hart, the pieces offered from Fort Jackson. Of course, you can contact us directly and we can point you in the right direction. But I also wanted to add, if there are some concerns in regards to the learning piece, we can do a virtual, parent-teacher conference. We had a parent to reach out to me and was really struggling with, getting the child to get the work going and get the work done. And so we did a virtual, parent teacher conference, and we kind of talked about, what we could be doing, what we needed to do to kind of restructure some things to make it work for this parent's student. So don't be afraid to ask for a virtual parent teacher conference, because as, Mrs. Smith shared earlier, we want to make sure that we're working together as a family and as a community to support the needs of our students. And then the last question asks, what resources are available for independent children versus kids that are forced to be independent? And I'm thinking that question is basically referring to, you're going to have, and I think about my own children. I think about, my oldest son who's now 30, and, he could, pretty much get it done, even as a middle schooler. And then I think about my current middle schooler who I have to force him to be independent. And so, what are we doing to kind of address that? So for those kiddos that, they work really well independently, they're getting it done. Their teacher has some enrichment and extension activities available on the Google Classroom. So these are going to be your kiddos that are getting it done independently. They're getting it finished. They are rocking and rolling with the remote learning, but you want to make sure that they are still being challenged. Reach out to that classroom teacher, go to that teacher's Google Classroom, and there will be some extension activities that child can do. But then for those students that we have to kind of stay on top of, again, going back to the 6 strategies will help that student to kind of become a little more, independent. So hopefully that kind of answered that question. And that was actually the last question that kind of fell under my category. Mrs. Smith is going to kind of wrap up this kind of segment, and I think we'll go to some of the questions that still may be coming in with the YouTube. There were some additional questions that came in through our PTO, but again, if you need anything, just give us a call, send us an email. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Dr. Esteen. Moving right along. Thank you for typing your questions in there. If you have any other questions as we're kind of finalizing this, you can type them in there. If we finish and we don't get to your question, feel free to reach out to us. I'm going to go over just a few more communication questions that we've received. Is there a North Springs virtual community area that parents can go to share ideas and suggestions? Actually, the best place to do that is probably the North Springs PTO Facebook page. That's the only one that we're aware of. If anyone has one or has an idea on how to start one, let us know and maybe we can put that out there. Will it be mandatory for is it mandatory for teachers to do a virtual check-in with kids? We covered that earlier. Yes, you should be hearing from your teacher. I would say at least within a week at a time, whether it's by a Google Meet, a Google Hangout, an email, a text, a phone call, whatever it is, you should be hearing from your child's teacher or teachers frequently, at least weekly. Some miscellaneous questions we received. Have we thought about having kids do the North Springs morning show? That's a great idea. We appreciate that idea. We actually already decided to take ourselves out of the mix and put some other teachers in. So you should have been seeing some teachers just recently. Today we had our TLC, the wonderful Miss Dupree, who you saw earlier on here with her two little girls. And so we already have some teachers signed up for the rest of the year. Want to make sure that we keep that in mind for other opportunities that we may have, though. Of course, if you don't know this, while we're in school, we do have children who run the morning show, and then our faculty just kind of makes guest appearances as needed, and one of us as an administrator shares some daily input of some sort. But our kids do actually anchor our news shows, so they do that every day. So it's a little bit different for us to be anchoring the news show now. We had a question, just probably a general parenting question about how much outside time is too much. I would say, honestly, as much time as your kids can spend outside right now, that's probably the best thing for them, aside from getting some work done around the house, chores, responsibilities that you may have, and their schooling needs. But as far as outside time and with friends, just keep reminding them of social distancing practices that we know are very important at this time, and keep them. As far as supervision, some children may not know that, so it's also good. In fact, I know some children who, when they drove by just recently to visit a neighbor, and they were real careful to say, now stay 6 feet apart. And I always think that's a great way to teach measurement. I bet all of our kids are going to know what 6 feet is now. But just make sure that they know, because if other kids don't know, then they may come in contact with your child. So your child needs to stay away, and they need to respectfully make sure that other children stay away. Other than that, just make sure that when they're out and maybe with friends in the neighborhood or just out playing, that they keep in mind your household practices of going in people's homes, especially at this time. That's probably not a good idea. But boy, I am a big fan of outside time. And it's the best way to wear your kids out and get them to sleep well. So I would definitely send them outside as much as possible, especially with this great weather that we've had. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Adams to just finalize some things and tell you goodbye.
Thank you so much to Ms. Smith and Dr. Esteen for addressing those questions. There was one question that popped up about refunds, and obviously we have refunded through, I believe I'm not sure what it's called. I think it's through Power School where you've gotten your refunds. There were some refunds that were not refunded directly to you, and Ms. Steck will be reaching out to those people in particular. She touched base with me today about getting your money back to you, because we know in this time we are trying to move as swiftly as possible to give you access to as many funds as you need. So that person who asked about refunds, if you just contact Amanda Steck, that is asteck at richland2.org, ASTECK at richland2.org. she will get in touch with you and help you address that. The other thing that I wanted to point out was social emotional support. As Dr. Estine said, there's a lot of resources. We are still operating on the premise that teachers can fill out a counselor referral form. So we still have that form digitally. So if a teacher is addressed or contacted by the parent and says, my child needs to talk to the school counselor, they're just struggling with this COVID-19 and just being away from friends, that the teacher will fill out a counselor referral form. Also, each state and our NSE chirp, our school counselor, Miss Matthews, who was amazing, puts in a piece for social emotional support built around our 7 mindsets curriculum. You will see some of our teachers be using 7 mindsets as well. So I wanted to address those questions. At this time, if you type in any, and it looks like somebody just put on the students fields section of student fees, excuse me, section of parent portal, there is a refund form at the bottom. You can definitely do that and check on that. Hello, Tyrell. I see you, bud. It's 3 or 4 times. That is amazing. We miss our students, if you can't tell. I think one thing that when we talk to every teacher, I really feel like our teachers are going through some challenging times with the connectedness of our students and our family. Some of them did express some disconnection. So we really are feeling it as well as the staff, because our number one job is to serve our students. And as you can see, it's not just about teaching and learning, because it's bigger than that. It's about life. And so we are here to support you. I close with this. Our next steps are to make sure that we plan a safe pickup and drop off of the packets, pickup of the resources and drop off of the packets. We are also in talks about end of the year celebrations and how that might look. We did our cricket caravan earlier, and we've tossed around the idea of giving parents and students an opportunity to get that together as well. And then we definitely want to begin looking at how we can support kids and parents in our school community. If anybody else has any questions, you can email any of the administrators. In respect for time, we wanted to try to keep this under an hour, and we have gone a little bit over, but I can't say it enough about how much we miss our kids. I think I can speak for my whole staff. Education and teaching is a calling, and a big piece of it is bigger than just teaching and learning. It's about building those connections and understanding how integral we are to kids in the and shaping their future. And so we are trying our hardest every day, and we hope that we can support you in any way. And if I leave you with this as a parent, less is more. The more that you love your kids, the more that you show them that you love them, the more that you listen to them, and the more that you read to them every day, I think we will all make it through this safely, and we will see it on the other side. With me, hopefully with a haircut, and then you enjoying your time. Don't type a lot in the thread about the hair. It is just rough over here. You can tell I am all in on this social distancing. So please enjoy your evening with your family. If you have a student, please hug them close and tell them that North Springs really misses them, and we are just looking forward to when they can return to us. Have a great evening and enjoy your time. Thank you.